Hey everybody, this Algebra 2 lesson is a pretty easy lesson. It's called Statistics with Central Tendency and Variance. So let's go ahead and get started. So ways to measure central tendency is mean. Mean equals average. You guys have done that before. You've probably done median also. Median is the middle number after you arrange them from smallest to biggest or biggest to smallest. Sometimes there's two of them in the middle and you have to average those two if there's two numbers in the middle. Mode is the one that you see the most often. Sometimes there's more than one mode because you might have two numbers that repeat the same. Sometimes there isn't a mode. There is no repeating numbers. Range is the biggest number minus the smallest number. Okay, and what I like to say is this, you guys. I like stupid gimmicks, and anything that's dumb enough for me to remember, I think is good, you guys. So it's mean to say that you're average. The median is like the median strip that goes right down the middle of the freeway. That thing that goes down the middle is called the median, so median is middle. And mode sounds like most. And if I could show you range, I'd spread my arms out and I'd say here's the smallest number on the left and here's the biggest number on the right. The range is where my fingertips are. The range goes from smallest to biggest. So anyway, whatever helps you guys remember. Okay, so here we go. Here's a real easy example. Find the mean, the median, the mode, and the range of the set of numbers. Okay. All right, so first of all, to find the mean, I got to add up the numbers and then divide by the number of numbers. Okay, you guys have done that before. So the mean is 198 divided by 9 is 22. All right, and then let's see. So the median is you got to rearrange the numbers from smallest to biggest. So I did that right here. You can rearrange them from biggest to smallest if you want, and then you find the one that's in the middle. Okay, and in this case, it's 20. All right, so let's see. And so the mode is the one that I see the most. So I see most of them are 24s. So if I had to pick one that had the most would be 24. So that's the mode. The range is then the biggest number minus the smallest number. So 32 minus 14 is 18. Okay, simple, huh? All right, so another way you can measure statistics is called variance. And variance is just a form of standard deviation. And standard deviation uses the Greek letter sigma. Okay, so variance is everything without this square root sign right here. So here's standard deviation. The variance would be this stuff without the square root sign, this inside stuff. So standard deviation, what you see like in political polls, you know, they say, you know, so-and-so is ahead of, you know, somebody else and with a plus or minus 3.2 points, and that 3.2 is your standard deviation. All right, anyways, you guys, so if you have the numbers, like we had the numbers, you know, the 14, the 17, and all those numbers in the last section. So if we have these numbers, x sub 1, x sub 2, x sub 3, and so on, and once you get your mean, if your x bar is your mean, and typically in statistics, you guys, x bar always equals my mean. Okay, then the standard deviation is the square root of, you take each number and subtract the mean and square it. And then add the next number minus the mean squared. And then the next number minus the mean squared, and so on. And you add up all those squares, you divide it by the number of numbers, and then you square root all of that stuff. So it's a long process. It's easy. It just takes a while, you guys. So guess what? I'm going to have you find the standard deviation in section B. Okay, well, we already know the mean. The mean was 22, so I had to do a small font. I did font 16, you guys. This is font 26 right here. So for me to fit it on this page, I had to do font 16. So here's each number minus the mean. Whoops, I got a 32 in there. So this should be a 22 right there. So here's each number minus the mean squared. Okay, so 17 minus 22 squared. 30 minus 22 squared. Each number minus 22 squared. And then I add all those up. So yes, I had to pick up a piece of paper, write down all the sums of those, or the squares, and then so I got 290 when I did that, divided by 9, and then I punch that in the calculator and square root that, and I get about I think it was 5.676, something like that. So and it kept going on. So I got 5.678. Okay. All right. So and we'll talk more about that as we get into the other sections, you guys. So right now we'll just leave it at that. Okay. So an outlier is a value that does not fit most of the data. It's either too big or too small. When I teach my AP statistics class, I talk about I talk about the average salary of my kids at my high school right here, of their families, and we, calculate what the average is, and then say Bill Gates moved into the neighborhood, he would be a complete total outlier, or even Michael Jordan, somebody that's really, really rich, and it would pull the data to one side because this rich person moved in. So they would be an outlier on that, you guys. So anyway, so outliers are either numbers that are too big or too small. So here's an example. So you are training for a triathlon. And the miles that you run for 7 weeks are 17, 20, 16, 18, 22, 19, and 20. Okay, so find the mean, median, mode, and range and standard deviation of all of that. All right, so I've already calculated that. I'm just saving time in this video right here. I've already calculated all of those. So the mean is the sum of the numbers divided by 7, I think. Yeah, by 7 weeks. Okay, so I added them all up and divided by 7. That's my mean. And the median is the one that was in the middle was the 19 after it got rearranged. The mode was the 20 because I had two 20s in there, and the range was the biggest number minus the smallest number. So I see the 22 minus the 16 is the range. And then the standard deviation was that big old fatty formula that I did right there. It was that guy right there, so it would be each number minus the mean squared, and add them all together and divide it by 7, and then square root all of that. So that got me the standard deviation right there. Okay, now let's just say the next week you had a really busy week and you couldn't run that much, so you only ran 3 miles. So it gave us an outlier, and we'll learn how to calculate whether it's an outlier or not in a few sections away, you guys. But right now this is an outlier, and I'll show us how to calculate an outlier later, or why it's an outlier later. Okay, anyway, so now what I want you to do is calculate your mean and standard deviation and all that other stuff. So I've done that right here for us. Looks like I didn't put that in there, so I should have wrote right here, find the mean, median, mode, and range of that again. So anyways, the new mean is 16.9. The new median is 18.5. The new mode, well, it doesn't change. Look how much the range changed, though, you guys, because the biggest minus the smallest now became 3 instead of 16 above. So it changed the range, too, and it changed your standard deviation also, you guys, because your mean changed. So I did each number minus the mean squared. Okay, so what did the outlier affected the most? Okay, so look at the means. The means went from 18.9 to 16.9. The median, well, that only changed by 0.5. The mode didn't change at all. Look at the range. The range changed by 13. And the standard deviation was pretty substantial also. So to me, I'm saying it changed the mean, the range, and the standard deviation of all of that. Okay, lots of times, you guys, especially if you have lots of data, the outlier gets tossed out. But when there's only 7 or 8 pieces of data right here, sometimes the outlier is not tossed out. So, but if there was lots and lots of data, we'd totally toss out the Bill Gates out of the neighborhood, because it would tell us that everybody's rich in the neighborhood when in fact everybody's not rich. I'm not a rich guy, but if the average, he'd pull that average up so high, we'd have to toss him out of the data. Anyways, if you're in my class, I would assign that for your homework.